All right, guys, welcome to the studio. Today we have Jackie Pappas, musician and rock star.
Rock
Yes.
star.
What's cooking, Jackie?
I'm working in the studio right now. One of my friend, she connected me with, actually she just started, well, they've been dating for a little bit now, but she connected me with this guy that she's dating, and he's does studio work, and he's like multi-instrumental fella. So he's, we're kind of he's the mastermind producer behind it, but he's really receptive to what I want. And
Cool.
So we're kind of producing it together.
Collaborating?
Yeah, collaborating, but he's more like he's like a magician. It's like wizard work on that stuff. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Have you ever been into a recording studio and someone's recording and it's
crazy. That's a lot to take in.
Oh, it is a lot to take in. Watching him do it, it's really cool. Like, even if you get behind the clicker at all, even if you're off a smidgen, he can alter it so it's unbelievable.
Nice.
I don't know, it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
It was.
So when you go into the studio, what does that look like? You go in and you're recording vocal tracks, and then he's mixing on the other end?
I'm just working on so I'm just going to be releasing singles. So I'm working on a song called Knickers right now, and it's almost done. So we do a rough draft, kind of. It's kind of like writing a paper. If you think, everyone knows how to write papers.
Right.
We all learn it in school. So you kind of think of it as writing a paper. So you go in there, you have a good grasp, like the songwriter has a good grasp of what they're hearing, because when you're writing a song, you kind of hear the other instruments coming in. And so you have an idea of the vibe you want out of the song. And then what's really cool is when you collaborate with other musicians. Like I have this girl named Emily who does electric, she's officially adding stuff to all my stuff now, because I really like to find musicians with kind of quirky, weird ears that can bring in a little more dimension to my song, because I'm really you can't say you're trying, but I really wouldn't mind like creating a sound, and creating a sound is working with the kind of
creating
the right,
your own unique sound.
Your own unique sound.
Yeah,
so
I get that.
Yeah, so this Knickers song, it's kind of...
Which I know Knickers because you sang it for me personally. Yes,
yeah,
I like it. I dig it. It's good music.
It's kind of corny.
Yeah.
But it's like funny corny, I feel like.
You like to have a good time with your music and your personality, and I think that shows through. You're an authentic artist.
Thank you. Yeah, I try to write kind of outside the box. If there's something I want to say, like, I love kind of making it kind of twisty a little bit with my lyrics. So you can hear like a normal thing that people say, and I kind of like to twist it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like there's one line I say in another song of mine, like, you know how you always hear the saying, the grass isn't always greener.
Yeah.
But I say the greener side ain't always grassy.
That's cool.
So I try to like make it like it's familiar, but it's a little different.
Yeah, I got a little saying about that too. It's the grass isn't always greener on the other side, but on my side, it's not covered in shade. You know, when you're dealing with shady people.
Yeah, covered in shade or
Yeah, exactly. Manure.
Right.
I love it. Well, that's got to be a fun creative process.
It's really
collaborating with people that get you.
It's so fun, and it takes a while to get there. Sometimes you have to take certain turns. You know, you meet people, and every person I've met on my musical journey and have worked with, not even necessarily worked with, just been influenced by, they've taught me. I'm really open to learning stuff on guitar because I'm all self-taught.
Yeah.
So,
which I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I really don't know a lot of music theory. I know enough to get me by.
Well, good God, some of the most famous musicians are self-taught.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's beautiful.
I used to get in my head and get insecure about it, but now I'm kind of proud of it because I learn from them. I watch them do things, and they teach me things. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, just in a sense.
Right.
But I can figure it out and play around on guitar, and it's really fun.
I think that gives an artist or a musician a leg up. You know what I mean? Because no one can really copy your vibe when you're self-taught, because it's coming from your own thought process.
I've actually heard that from a couple of my friends who they're like all over the above really good, but they're like, sometimes ignorance is bliss a little bit when you're writing music, because So when you're taught music theory at such a young age, you go like, okay, this chord goes with this chord, goes with this chord, and that chord. But I'm just like, I don't really know what the I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I just kind of dick around and like do, and sometimes I make a weird sound. And it's funny if I'm playing it for my friends who can like identify what I'm doing. They're like, oh, it's an A sus/7, hold tight this. And I'm like, I don't know what the you just said, but it sounds cool.
Exactly.
And I did it. So I don't know what I did.
You know what you're doing.
Yeah,
exactly.
I know, but I don't.
I get it.
So, yeah.
I feel
it's all
that.
ear.
Yes. No, I can appreciate that. That's, I think, something that most of the artists in the music industry have come to achieve fame, having that advantage.
Yeah, so I used, like I said, it was something I used to get in my head and feel kind of insecure about.
Right.
And I'm like,
like you were a step behind instead of a step ahead.
Yeah,
but your abilities are your gifts.
Yeah,
right?
And that's what I think every musician has something so different to offer. And I think for me, I've learned to accept I love songwriting. I think that's where I'm good at is putting a story together.
Plus, you have no filter and everything just comes out.
Yeah.
You can't not be you.
I don't.
That's what I like about you.
Thank you.
Like the first time I met you, I think I don't usually get out and go to a ton of, well, I hadn't been really. I'd been focused on my business and we'd all just experienced the whole COVID lockdown and all of that. But coming out of that, you started performing live and local. And so I went to a couple of your shows and like I said, I really enjoyed it. You have a unique flavor and style and it comes through. And just getting to talk to you when you're not on stage, it's like same person, same person. It's like all encompassing and that's good.
And I think that's so true when you're doing any kind of art. Like, if the more true you are to yourself and the more you're just, I have songs where I'm like, well, my husband and I went through stuff and this is our story. And, I kind of paint myself in a negative way for a little bit in the story, but that's all part of stories and learning. And
you're telling your truth.
I'm telling my truth and I'm not afraid to I'm not afraid to say, hey, this is what I did wrong. It sucked. I was a little bitch for a little bit, but hey, I came out stronger.
Yeah.
and a better
you can
person.
own it. And when you and your, with the respect between you and your husband, it's like that's
so much respect.
Takes you to the next level in your marriage or relationship. It's like when you can own your and forgive each other, with
forgive
dignity
and
respect. Yeah.
And that's in communication. I think my husband and I, it's kind of fun. Our kids, I have 2 little boys, Hank and Gus, and they're getting to such a fun age where it's funny because every time your kids grow and you think you have it figured out and then they grow and change again, you're like, motherfucker. And I always tell them, I'm like, I'm trying to figure I don't say, maybe I do say shit sometimes. They hear me swear sometimes, whatever.
Right.
But I'm like, I'm trying to figure myself out. I think I have you guys figured out. And then you grow and change. You're not 6 anymore. Hank's 11, know. And so he's like, can stay by himself for a little bit now. And he'll like babysit. I say babysit Gus. I can't say it to them. Gus is but nor here nor there. But anyway, what's cool is we kind of can have dates at our house now. Like the kids will do their own thing. Like
they can entertain themselves.
Yeah, and sometimes it's nice to all do stuff together, but sometimes it's nice to do stuff apart at home. So they were like, we just want to stay inside and watch a movie. So my husband and I kind of had like a date night by the fire, just the 2 of us.
I love that.
And they were inside. And
I love keeping up with Hank and Gus on your social media because they are very outdoorsy.
They are.
And so I was dying when I looked at some of the last pictures. The mud. Because that's how me and my brothers grew up. It would be like, it would be time for family photos. And we would be like, we would canoe out to the island. And we would like get in a huge like fight. Yeah. And then like throw berries at each other and stuff. And we'd come back covered in like blueberries and shit. Like it's time to take the family photo.
Aren't those the best memories?
Yes.
Though?
And I'm looking at you're just like your boys like play with sticks in the mud and outside, and like no one does that shit anymore.
I know.
It's like everyone's got to be on the tablet.
Speaking of, I was so proud mom moment, and I'm, I have my insecurities with being a mom, but this was a really proud one. Is when we went to the fireworks a couple days ago. And my son, Hank, my oldest son, he's really into the Hunger Games all of a sudden. We got the series and he's just in it. And it's so cool to watch him read ahead of like wanting to do but I've always been really strict with like tablets.
Right.
And they don't really ever. But anyway, it was cool because there were a bunch of kids there after the fireworks were over. They were sitting on tablets, phones, doing stuff. And I see Hank and Gus sitting on the couch reading. Like Hank was reading Hunger Games to Gus. And I was like, oh,
dude, that's pretty cool.
What's
the age gap between the two boys?
They're a year and a half apart.
Okay, cool. So my brothers grew up 10 months apart exactly.
Oh.
And then
what
me
is that
5
called?
years
That's a
later.
twin.
Irish twins.
Irish twins.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Steve was born February 29th on the leap year. He had a unique birthday.
Wow.
On the leap. And then so Scott was born on Christmas Eve. Both in 1971.
Oh my gosh, your mom was busy.
Yeah, they were. And my parents were only 17.
Oh.
So, yeah, they were like out on their own.
Man.
Yes. But my brothers, like you're watching your boys because they're so close in age, it's hard to tell that they're not like the same age because there's just a small gap between. Just like my brothers, they kind of grew up like twins.
Yeah.
And it's like, who's babysitting who? You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
babysitting, if you will. But they kind of take care of each other and they become like soulmates in a way, I guess, because they're connected forever.
Yes, they have a really, really, really sweet bond, and they get in their little tiffs, but
that's fun stuff, though.
yeah,
of
but
course.
it's all like they resolve it, and it was really cool the other day. Hank apologized all on his own to Gus, and then Gus apologized all on his own to Hank because they got into some little silly fight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that they figure it out.
Taking accountability.
Exactly.
That's the biggest thing for me with the kids.
Like I think, too, they're spending time. They're spending time with each other, and they're building relationships. They know how to resolve a problem between the two.
It's super cool to see. And it's like, neat. Because I think it's just, like I say, communication. I think that's key just in any relationship. And trying to make them communicate and see it at such a young age from all sides.
Yeah.
You can see it from your side. That's cool. We all do because we're the star of our own show.
Of course.
But you also have to see it from Hank's perspective. Like, why? And this and that. You just got to really put it out. And then I notice it clicks and they kind of take a little minute, and then they always come back together and respect each other.
I love that. Speaking of relationships, I love your husband, Joel.
Cool. Yeah.
We've had lunch several times.
He's a cool little fellow.
He's cool. He's a pilot. I'd love to have him on the show.
Yes.
Yeah, what a great guy.
You know who would be fun on the show is I think him and his friend, because they're kind of goofballs together, and Jeff's like a total goofball, so it might be cute.
Is he a pilot also?
Yeah.
Oh, hilarious. Yeah.
I tell you what, pilots together, oh my Lord. It's cute riding in the car with them. Okay, so think of this. So they were co-pilots. For a few years together, they'd always fly together. And pilots are very in tune with hearing everything that they're in. Like, so because they're in the plane, they have to hear everything and like analyze it and detect it. And it's when they're in the car together. Because I always ride in the back because I don't give a shit.
Right.
Like, you guys ride in the front. I don't give a shit. I ride in the back. So I always just sit there and I just listen to them. Just go. Jeff will be like sitting there. I'll be like, what's that noise? Do you hear that? And Joel's like, I think it's the transmission doing this. I'm like, what is this? It's a car.
Right.
It's just, they're
logistics.
Goofball. It's all logistics.
He's a fun guy, but like, so you had mentioned earlier as we were chatting that sometimes bits of your relationship plays into your music. And obviously it takes work going into a marriage, and to stay together and to communicate. Communication is key. Comprehension is key. Like, are you picking up what I'm throwing down? What are you, what are some tips that you can give to new couples, like that are going through their little bouts here and there?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. So I feel like I look back from when you first get married, it's all like honeymoon stage, really. It's rainbows and butterflies, and it's so sweet. And then, you bring kids into the mix, and you kind of, and I think for us at least, I don't know, every relationship may go through this. Maybe they don't, but ours did because maybe we were together so young.
Yeah.
We got married. I mean, I've been with him since I was 16, so more than half my life I've been with him.
And I know that about you. That's why I'm asking, because you've got good sage advice.
Yeah, because, we've been together, 21 years.
Beautiful.
Right? It is beautiful.
And rare.
It is rare, and it's cool because you can't expect to have that long of a life together and not expect to go in some bad dips.
Right.
And we definitely have had our bad dips. Don't get me wrong, we're not perfect, and which I think is great because I think imperfection is much more beautiful than perfection.
You can't experience highs without lows.
Exactly.
That's what life is about.
So I think
it.
my best advice is really, and I really emphasize this, is communication. For a little bit, we lost communication of each other. We stopped seeing each other, and we stopped respecting and appreciating the little things that we do for each other.
Right.
You know, like, because I was so absorbed in the kids. He was so absorbed in trying to get higher in his job, and he was working his ass off, and I was working my ass off with the kids. And, you know, for a little bit, I felt not seen, you know, and that's okay. You know, that happens. And, but I think I should have communicated that to him instead of repressing. I repressed it and was like, oh, he's busy. It's okay. It's okay. I'm trying not to be a bother. You know,
right. You don't want to feel needy, but
exactly.
but you want to be recognized. And,
yes. So
right. And he's probably feeling the same way too.
Same,
Neither one of you want to like be a burden on each other's.
Yes. Because, you know, we're trying to work and do, and
you're building a family.
Yes. And so you kind of lose sight of that bond that you had prior. And I think the coolest part, though, when you do recognize that and you start communicating, you don't get on the defense. I think so many couples and relationships, they get on the defense. Like someone will say something just mildly, not even, but there's already so much repressed tension and anger. You just snap. You know, that's what we were doing to each other, really. Like he'd say something, be like, well, what does that mean? And then I'd dig deeper and try. And it's so silly.
You're in your head and you're looking for things. You're making up scenarios that aren't there. It happens.
Exactly.
It happens in business. It happens in love and just any relationship.
It does. It happens in any relationship. You're right. And so that, I think, is the biggest thing, just being receptive to what they say before you snap and like say anything in defense. I say that with quotations. I think you have to really take a step back if you need to, and then come back together and really listen.
Press pause.
Listen.
Yeah.
You know, listening and talking
Active
and
listening.
Active listening instead of just going to where, like, not listening.
Exactly.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like, there's a difference between listening and hearing, right?
Yes, 100%.
And so I think you have a great leg up, too, because I think that writing your music has to be a form of therapy, and it's like journaling, because you're just putting all of your thoughts onto paper and then singing them out loud, and it's like
very vulnerable.
Yeah, exactly, of course, but you're open. You know what I mean? So it's all your cards are on the table.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it helps you probably process, you know, what the situation is.
Yes.
You know what I mean? When you're dissecting it, it's like you have a moment to actually press pause, listen to yourself, you know, and your intuition.
Yep.
You know, one of the sayings that I kind of kept telling myself over the past couple of years is there's a fine line between paranoia and intuition. You should really
that's a great line.
Err on the side of caution. It's like, okay, that's stories that you tell yourself, you know what I mean? And listening to your intuition are two different things.
100%. And sometimes it's like the brain. I always say brain and heart. It's like listen with your heart, but still let your brain kind of help, because you got to think about it too.
Yeah.
But like I think that's kind of what you're saying. You can really make up stories in your brain.
Absolutely.
And then
it's like, what am I telling myself versus what's actually happening?
Look, heart's over here. Not
Right.
here.
Well, when your heart's as big as yours, it just encompasses
I'm
the
like
whole
the
thing.
Grinch when it grows.
Yeah.
And it grew 3 sizes that day.
I love it. You always have a good hook for the funny comments.
Oh, thanks. It's natural.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe it's being the baby of 5, you know. You
That's another thing
gotta
too.
observe
Is
and
like
watch.
you're the baby of 5. I'm just the baby of 3. But
we're both babies.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Yeah. How close are you with your siblings? Because just talking about relationships, we've got your boys on the table.
Yeah.
Your relationship with your hubs, and then how do you balance your relationships with your siblings?
With my siblings, you know, I feel like there's always one black sheep in the siblings. So there's one that we don't really talk to, which is fine.
Is that you?
Yep, it's me. I'm the black sheep. I'm the black sheep in a different way, but, you know.
That's what I was going to say, because I feel like the black sheep, but not in the way that, I don't know.
No, that's like black.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm one amongst like doctors and lawyers.
There it is.
I'm one amongst doctors and lawyers, and here's me. My parents call me when they talk about me, they're like, we always just say you're our free-spirited young lady.
Right.
I'm like, okay. doing your music. I'm like, yep. Maybe one day the music will take off and it'll be different.
Right. You're neither here nor there with it because you are just doing your thing.
Yeah.
And that's what you're about.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. So that's exactly, and that's what, look. I always say this is the boob. The boob's showing. When people have their little clasp on, I'm like, your boob's showing.
Oh, I got you, yeah.
Funny. Just my little brain, because I was fixing my necklace.
Did you make that?
No.
That's pretty cool.
Isn't it cool?
That actually looked like the moon this morning. I get up really early.
I saw it.
Did you see it? It's like a sliver, just like that.
I was up at 4 locking my chickens in because we forgot to lock the chickens in.
Yeah.
So this is actually funny. So we forgot to lock them in, and it was like 3:30 or 4, and all of a sudden you hear the coyotes, right? And Joel jumps up. He goes, "Oh, we forgot to lock the chickens in." Because, you're afraid of the coyotes getting our little chickadees.
And just to give everybody a little context, you live on like 6 acres and you have like a whole menagerie of animals.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're hoping to get goats. And
I can't wait till you get a llama.
Oh,
yeah.
I would love all that. Give me all the animals, slowly.
Yes.
But yeah.
Back to the chickens.
Yeah. So it was funny because Gordy, our newest addition, he's our dog, Gordy Howe. He started howling with them. So it really woke us up. I'm like, we gotta lock that. They felt really close, but I think they were more in the distant. But
yeah.
Anyway, we went out and saw the moon. Okay. And it was really cool because it was, and then the sunset started rising.
Yeah, isn't that sweet when that happens?
With the sunset.
Wow.
Oh, so pretty.
Isn't it the worst when you see a beautiful view like that, but then you go to get your phone out to take a picture and it's like 2 dots?
Sucks.
There's no
it's
capturing
like you can't.
that.
How do you do that? How do you capture the moon? I know some
can't.
people can do it.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the appropriate camera, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But like on your phone, you're like, how does it look like this? But it's like huge right in front of your face.
It's so much prettier.
That moon was beautiful this morning. I get up at 2 a.m.
I love crescent moons.
Yeah.
People are all over. Full moons are awesome. But
we just went through the whole full moon phase, I believe, because I get up super early in the morning, like 2 a.m. Mm-hmm. I walk out the front door with the dogs, and usually the moon is boom right there, so I get a great view of it. Mm-hmm. And we just went through that whole full moon phase, and then this morning it was the sliver. Yeah, but you could see the full outline.
It was like literally just like this.
Yeah, I dig that. Pretty cool.
Yeah. These earrings are cool. These are a girl, I'm like a huge fan. She's Cinder Alley.
Okay.
And she uses, these are coyote teeth.
Wow,
yeah,
cool.
And she uses
that's why I was asking
nature.
if you made that, because I know that you are a creative person, and those aren't yours, but if you want to plug your friend.
Oh, yeah, Cinder Alley. She's awesome. She uses there's these one earrings I got. She's just really active on Instagram, and she does little boutiques. She goes to the Art in the Village.
Okay.
She always has a booth set up for that one.
Cool.
And I always go.
What's her Instagram?
Cinder Alley.
Got it. Okay.
Cinder Alley. Yeah.
We'll put it up on the.
Yeah, she has these one earrings that I got from her, and it literally, she works in the garden a lot too, and she found snake skin, and she used the snake skin in her earrings. I should have worn those. Those are really cool.
Yeah.
And you can see the snake skin. It's cool.
That's awesome.
She's cool. She's inspired actually one of my songs with these earrings, so it's kind of
neat.
Cool. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, usually you're kind of like me in the way that you tie unique things into your whole persona.
Yeah,
everything's got a message to it or belongs to something.
Yeah,
a memory, something like that.
Yep.
I like that. It's kind of how I put the studio together.
Something
always ties in.
You have a very good creative eye.
I appreciate that.
Looking at all of your stuff around here, it's so cool.
I appreciate
it's so
that.
cool.
Thank you.
You have a very good eye. I
Usually
like when
there's
people
some
do quirky
meaning.
stuff.
Yeah.
So
try to be, try to tie in personal to professional.
And you can feel your personality out of it. And that's what I think anyone in the art, like anyone making art, writing a story, designing something, I think the more you put your personality, the more you put you into it, stop worrying about, does this look good? Does that look good? I mean, you do to an extent.
Right.
But if you keep it true to you, it's cool.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I agree. I feel the same way about your music. That's why I always enjoy hearing you sing.
Thank you.
It's not just your typical, like, you're burned out on hearing that same sound. You bring something new. You know what I mean? Yeah, you change it up. And
that's nice that you say that, because I think I have different, times when I'm feeling sad and it feels different to write I don't know. Yeah, I always like to bring in different types of melodies and feels and vibes. So,
Yeah. And you're not scared to play with different things and collaborate with different
For
people.
a while I was, but now I'm
You
like,
grow, though.
Yeah.
Who is somebody that inspired you in the music business? Like in that industry?
Like a personal relationship, or just...
I mean, like as you were a kid getting into music, you know how we all kind of have become a fan of somebody?
I've had different, people introduce, like growing up, my dad listened to a lot of Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
So in like the old movies, because my parents are 70 and they loved that old time, like High Society. Have you ever seen High Society with Bing Crosby, Frank Sinatra? And that was like my jam. Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. I'd watch those all the time. And I love the music.
Yes.
And so Frank Sinatra probably was my first. I had a big crush on him.
Cool.
My parents told, I think I wrote him a letter once.
Love
like
it.
I was into him. But
I like that. Here's I don't mean to cut you off. I want to bring this
good.
up because being the baby, and my parents are 70 also. And so kind of growing up as the baby and with brothers, you kind of grew up the same way. My brothers were 5 years older than me, and then my parents, I was constantly around adults.
Yeah.
Everywhere. And then both my parents had 6 siblings apiece.
Ooh, so you had lots of uncles and aunts,
tons
cousins,
of them all
and
around all the time.
Yep,
and so I think an advantage of being the baby in a family like that is that you're introduced to all these adult, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like more sophisticated type things.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
100%.
I was less in tune with like kid stuff.
Yeah, you were more of like an old soul naturally.
I was, just because you're around that environment and you're like,
Yep.
then your interests peak differently
Yep.
at different times.
Yeah, it's for sure, 100%.
That's cool. Frank Sinatra is a good one. What about as you came up later?
Yeah, so as I got older, of course I had my little NSYNC Britney Spears phase.
Who didn't?
Who the hell? Backstreet Boys. Woo! Loved me some JC
Yeah, I love
and
it.
Brian from Backstreet Boys. And Britney Spears, I just wanted to be her, which is so funny because, you learn.
Yeah.
I used to because I grew up on a lot of property. So I would go out in my yard and I would pretend to be in I would pretend I was Britney Spears in her video.
Right.
I would like make these fake videos and pretend I was her. So fun.
Well, every kid, you're an imaginative person.
Very
though.
much
That's also
so.
what I like about your kids because they're outside playing and
always...
using their imagination.
Yes.
That's what it was like growing up for me. Was like we like played capture the flag and like we also grew up with property and going up north to 40 acres.
It's so
and
magical.
Like, yeah, it's
that's
just
the
a
best
different
playground.
It's a whole different ball game, especially if you're a creative person and you're left to use your imagination and you're with a group of friends and you're doing all those things outdoors without props. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're using sticks and trees and bushes are your props.
Yes,
And
they do that. And they played Capture the Flag the other day and they had to make their, because I don't have.
Oh, that's
you
still
can
alive and well?
You can buy the game. You can like get a whole box. And I haven't, but they made their own flag.
I love it.
They like made a flag with a stick and they made their own. I'm like, there you go. I would do shit like that all the time when I was little.
Yep. When you don't have resources, but you have imagination and creativity, it's like the world is your oyster because you can do anything you want.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I try to harness that as much as I can for them. Like Gussie.
I dig that because like I can see your boys taking a refrigerator box and making a fort out of it. That's what we used to do.
My son Gus is like the builder.
Yeah.
It's really funny. They both have their own little roles you can see, but Gus is more of my what do you call that when is it like analytical?
Analytical, okay.
More so, I guess. He'll see a box and he'll just build this magnificent. He's my builder.
Yeah.
He builds everything.
That's
He's always
so cool.
wanting to build and Hank's more of the imaginative, like he can build the game that they want to play. Like I know he's the mastermind behind the game. If they make up any game, he's doing it.
Cool.
He's kind of the guy.
I dig this. I think they're part of my soul tribe because you know who I wanted to be as a little kid was Milton Bradley. I would design my own games.
See?
And so I could do all the artwork and like put it all together. And my favorite game as a kid was Clue. My board game anyway was Clue. You know, and then
I should play that with Hank and Gus. I haven't done that yet.
Dude, yeah, that's
They
a
probably
great
love
one.
that.
And then Monopoly, Clue, Monopoly, all those types of games. But yeah, that's fun stuff.
Yeah, it is fun.
Yeah.
It's good to do that. I feel like so many kids now, like the school, they're in, school. And it's just not as I don't know, kids just don't use their imagination the same. And Hank and Gus are kind of in a weird way. They're kind of floaters. They don't have a group, thank God, because they're already third grade. He's going into sixth, but they're already like segregating into like cliques.
It's interesting because I think all the new age technology takes away from creativity. I think it makes us like less smart, less creative.
Yeah, well, kids are, what they do for fun now is they will play video games with their friends in like a different, the friends will be at home, but that's how
they're not even playing together.
They're not even playing together.
Yeah, exactly.
And if they do, it's to each their own. I always say each their own. Parents parent the way they parent. It's just, I try to do it a little more old school, I guess.
Well, there's just more connection to that old school vibe of things. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was always
one day they'll thank me.
Yeah, of course. I think that they're thanking you now.
I think they are, because actually Hank noticed. He goes, "Mom, did you notice all those kids on their tablets and Gus and I were reading?" I'm like, "I know, I noticed. I'm so proud."
Yeah, I love that.
So
I think that that's a smart move, kind of being cognizant of how much screen time your kids get.
It's hard though,
my godson,
because all the kids are doing it.
My godson and his brother, my friends Jeff and Julia, they monitor all that stuff. And like with gifts, I can be, as a godfather, I get a little over the top with gifts and shit like that. Mm-hmm. But I have to ask. I'll ask out of respect. I'm like, I don't want to get them anything that's going to, you know what I mean, set them back more than move them forward. But my godson's a cutie anyway. Like he's more into probably the packaging than the actual gift inside.
They're doing something right.
Exactly.
I feel like, because the packaging was always fun when I was little.
Exactly. Too. Yep. That's half the fun. So that's cool.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I think you have a good mindset.
I try.
As far as that goes. Well, there's no...
And you definitely get in your head, and there's times
I'm sure there are manuals out there now, but I mean, experience is the best teacher. Go for it.
Here's the thing with manuals and like all these parenting books that people are reading. I get it. It's great. I never did, because I think I grew up taking care of my cousins and I was a nanny forever.
Born.
Like I automatically just kind of knew how to do it.
Nurture.
But then what I noticed out of those years is that every person is so different. You can't, like, you see these people who are sticking right when the baby's born. And it's like I say, to each their own, and there's no judgment. But for me, this is what worked the best, is I feel like for me, listening to my baby and not putting, when my newborn was born, not putting the newborn right on a schedule.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that was like, oh, I can't do that.
Right.
So I would just kind of let the baby, if the baby wanted to sleep, let the baby sleep.
You're more organic, right?
Yeah.
And so that works for people.
Yeah.
Some people that works for,
some
people need a schedule.
My oldest sister, very type A, she worked, her husband worked, they're busy doctors, and they had twins, and they wanted them on a schedule, and that I nannied them.
Yeah.
So I had them on a strict schedule, which was great, and it worked fine. Like, it was fine for all of us because, they weren't my kids in the end. I just did. But it worked for them, and they're still on a very strict schedule.
You have to do what works for you organically and kind of feel that out.
Yeah.
And then as your kids get older, I'm sure, like, they develop their own personalities, and you kind of tune into that as a nurturing parent.
Yes.
You tune into what their needs are, because I think it was funny when I talked to my dad. My dad, it took him a minute to get like, oh, there's 3 of them, and they each have their own personality. So like you
can't do it the same for each kid.
He did not get that. Yeah. So for the longest time, he was like, oh, I got to deal with this one differently than I deal with this one. And it's like,
emotions.
It's funny to hear him say that. I got to get my dad on a podcast, because I appreciate the way he raised us.
The way you talk about your parents, they just sound
They're
awesome.
funny. They're funny. But we were not raised for every touching post, that I share on social media, if it's their birthday, Father's Day, Mother's Day, whatever. It's like, yeah, all those things are true, but there's another side. You know what I mean? They were not perfect.
Yeah.
Like you said, to your point, like every marriage, every relationship in any capacity takes work. And they, they were together from, the time they were 16 also, having my brothers by the time they were 17. And so, I went on dates with my parents. So my brothers were 5 years older. I observed how relationships go, because I was also self-sufficient in the way that if they had their date night on a Friday night, like how you just described how your kids are present, but like you're dating at home, you can figure that out. So they would, my brothers would be off, like doing whatever they were doing, if they were into football, sports, or going out with their girlfriends, whatever. Being 5 years younger, I'm with them. If date night's on Friday night, I'm going out with them to dinner. But like I was into my own like I was fine with going with them, but I didn't want to be bothered by them. And like they were attentive to me, but like didn't need to be. Right. And so they could do their own thing. And we kind of had a vibe of that for a period of time until I was old enough to stay back, right? Or go out with my friends. And so, but I had the unique perspective of that observation of how like they managed that. You know what I mean? So it takes work and,
it does.
Yeah. And they definitely disciplined us. We did not grow up in a house without discipline. Yeah. And I think that as a parent too, like you must go through those ebbs and flows of like, how do you navigate discipline these days? Discipline is Everyone hard. Has a different perspective on that. And so, and my parents certainly did. And they grew up in a time where discipline looked different than it does today. And so I think it's really just about balance, but teaching kids to be accountable for their actions is really where the discipline comes in. And I think you and Joel both do a pretty good job about that, I think. Yeah. From my perspective.
Yeah, I think we try. We try. And there's some days where I'm not as patient with the boys, but then it works out because Joel will be more of a patient. And I'll be like, I kind of get a little snippy, and Joel's like, Jackie, you think maybe? Love that. I'm like,
I'm having a flashback right now because I could always hear our mom saying, you just wait till your dad gets home.
Right. Because sometimes you just...
Right. And then it was just like, all right, line up. And then he would just, be ready to go. 1, 2, 3. Like whatever we did, if we missed the bus, if we inconvenienced our mom in any way, you know what I mean? It was like, he didn't even know like the details of everything. It was just like, wait till your dad gets home. And then all she had to do was tell him, like, it's on. Yeah.
When Joel leaves for trips, they know, right? I'm the softie. Yeah. I'm more of the soft, like, pushover. They have me, they know it, wrapped around their little finger.
Boys have a different relationship with mom than dad, and vice versa. Girls
Dad's
and
like
dads.
the fun. Well, I'm fun, but different fun. But Joel's like, let's go play golf together. Let's go. He does all the fun, like, the dude stuff. I'm like, I'll just stay back for golf. I'll go.
But you're cool because you're ready to throw down with mud and sticks too, right?
Exactly, and so, right. I'm like, let's go. Yes.
A beautiful woman, but always ready to get down in the mud. I like that about you.
I love digging in the dirt and stuff. Bring it all.
Yep.
So it's cool. Relaxing.
Yeah.
But and like building forts and stuff, like we'll build like forts. I'll do that stuff with them. I forgot what I was saying, but anyway, doesn't matter.
Well, just getting back to the
when he leaves for trips.
Yeah.
So it's funny because they turn into little. They're not little. They're little. They're boys. They're little heads.
Yeah.
And they'll like tease me.
Yep.
All the time. All three of them together. But like the two of them, Joel will leave, and then they just do these little. They're like little.
I do.
Yeah, you've been there.
My favorite thing to do with my mom was scare her.
Yes,
like pop out from behind the door.
Yep, they do that. They do it all.
Yes.
So like sometimes, and then bedtime's. In the summer they don't really have a bedtime. They're just whatever. Just go to sleep when you're ready.
Yep.
So, but when I do, sometimes I want them just to go to bed.
Yeah.
So I'll go to bed, and then it's like a bit run out. Mom, can we sleep with you? And I'm like, all right.
Pulls at your heartstrings because that's not going to last forever.
Yeah,
right?
I know. And that's what I think. That's not going to last. Like Hank's already 11, but he's still, this is probably his last little stretch of wanting to sleep with me.
Before teens.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but they're both sweet.
Yeah. No, I love
Joel
that
always
you
gives
have
them
that
the talk right before. He's like, you guys be good for your mom.
Help your
Just
mom.
listen to her.
We had to do it too, but we were not without our shenanigans.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Always doing
shenanigans.
stuff.
Yep.
Oh my God, we used to get in so much trouble, but it was good stuff though.
Mm-hmm. Healthy trouble.
Yeah, we always getting. Nothing we did was never revealed.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It was like we also used to love doing prank phone calls and all that.
Yeah, I used to do that.
Oh my God!
I still have a voice.
We used to have we lived in a subdivision on a lake, and the subdivision would provide you each year an updated list of all the phone numbers for everybody in the subdivision, right? And that was our template right there.
Oh, that was
We just go
perfect.
through and like make our prank phone calls to everybody. Eventually that catches on and you get the belt enough to know, okay, we got to knock that shit
My
off
brothers they got the belt a lot when I was my dad would come up. There was one time my dad came up with the belt. He's like, I'm coming up with the belt. And I'd hear him come up the stairs, and I was always good. I was like a really good kid.
Yeah.
Thank God. Thank God I was a good teenager, too, because I was a good kid. But my brothers were not good. They were bad. Very bad. But my dad came up with the belt, and one time they plotted. They jumped on his back. I think one jumped on his back, and one was in. I don't know. They just played him like a fiddle. I don't think they ended up getting the belt that night. I think my dad stopped that after. He's like, "Well, they got me beat."
Well, eventually that happens. You know what I mean? And plus, our dad always provided us with the tools to work out, and he did that stuff with us. He trained us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then we had to do things like chop wood and stack wood,
That's
and all that crap.
awesome.
And so, obviously, growing boys tend to catch up to you eventually.
Yeah.
And then it's like, the tide has turned.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah,
Can't
when
use the belt no more.
Joel and Hank and Gus are wrestling. It's like, Joel's like, I can't hold him down anymore. He can't. Well, he did get all three of us one time. He had us all. I said, how do you? Because all I want to do, I've never been able to tickle torture Joel. Drives me nuts. He's always been able to tickle torture. I know it sounds so silly.
Yeah.
But he's strong enough, but I can never tickle torture him. And I tried with the kids. I'm like, let's tickle torture him. And we still can't do it. He still ends up tickling us. So.
You know what? I was always pretty ticklish, but we used to do that to each other too. Being 5 years younger than my brothers, if you didn't laugh when you got tickled, then we would do something called the pink belly.
Yeah.
Where you hold them down by their arms and legs and smack their tummy until it's pink. Yeah.
Yes,
oh,
we
man.
have similar. My brother Brian would pin me down and just peck on my chest and tell this story. It was horrible because at first it kind of tickled and then it just started hurting.
Yes.
He's
It was like
once upon a
torture.
time there was a bird and it would peck on this fence and it would just peck, 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 peck. And then he had a whole story and the story was, I swear, 20 minutes. And I just lay there and get my pecked.
Exactly. Oh my God.
bird.
I know. I think I've had that a time or two.
Probably.
Myself.
I'm sure you did.
Oh
It's
my God.
brutal.
It's
Red
hilarious.
belly.
But that's the downside of being a baby. So there's
Oh my
the
gosh,
pluses
yes.
and the minuses.
Yes.
And then also too, your parents kind of favor you a little bit more because
you're the baby.
right. Well, your siblings
And there's a
are
big
in
gap.
that holery stage.
Yes,
And
and
you're
you're
not.
still
You're
sweet.
still sweet and cute. And so I remember that sitting at the table. It was it was always I hated eating baked potatoes back when I was little, the skins. And my brother,
Same.
I wouldn't have to eat them, but my brothers would have to eat them. You know what I mean?
And they'd probably be like, why?
And then I would just get a beat down in the backyard after. I didn't have, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's okay,
Oh my
I don't have
gosh.
to eat the potato,
No, it's
the
so
potato skin
funny.
tonight, but I do have to get a beat down from my brothers in the backyard.
Of course.
after,
You know
right?
it's coming. I knew my parents would go out to eat, and my sister, because there's 9 years between my sister and I, 9 or 10 years. And so she would hold down the fort for us. My sisters, both of them, they were close in age. But the boys were my brothers were bad. They'd always fight, fist fight, brawls, bad fights. And so they were very unattainable. Is that the word that I wanted? Entertain? Is that a word?
Very, let's see.
Unattainable? It doesn't matter.
Right.
Anyway, I do that all the time.
We can fix that in post.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I'm alive at it.
Yeah. So anyway, there was one time they were fighting so bad. They took my brother Brian and they duct taped him to a pole house.
Yeah.
Duct taped him, tied him up, put his hands. He got out of it though.
Oh my God.
Good times and bad times and weird times.
I was always appreciative of being the third in line if it was time for a whipping because my mom was the type of mom that always had the fancy bathroom with all the towels and the washcloths and all this. And everything was always super nice and fluffy. So while I had time, while the other ones were getting their licks, I would be down in the bathroom stuffing my underwear with those fluffy washcloths, to impact the to absorb the impact,
Yep, that's smart. It's clever.
and then just pretend like it hurt.
Ow! Ugh.
And the funniest part of those of those times was laughing at the other person.
Yeah.
Like
when it was
until
happening.
it's your turn. Right.
Oh,
It's
here
all
it
fun and games till it's your turn.
Yep. I never got spanked. I was such a good, I told you I was such a good kid, but my brother sure as hell did. I think I saw it. And I was like, screw that.
Yeah, that's not for me. Well, what's funny is that we watched it in real time and it happened to us, but like it never deterred us from like the shit we needed to get done.
Like I said, boys are a little different. My boys always got it. And
Exactly.
my brother's always got it.
Right.
My boys don't get it, but my brother's always got it.
I mean, everything we did, we were taught not to do, but we did it anyway because that's what kids do.
Yep.
Right? And so,
Yep. You just want to go against the grain.
That's how that rolls. No, but as you move on, I really enjoy the process of gaining more experience through life. I do look forward to it because, you know, gosh, you could flash back to in your 20s when you really start paying attention to growth. And it's like, holy shit, the difference between when you were 20 and then 21 and then 23 and then like the evolution.
Yeah.
And you just look at that timeline. It's like, wow, a lot of growth, a lot of change can happen in 1 year, in a short period of time. It's
1 year.
Because as you go on, the lessons get more intense.
Oh,
you know,
so true.
Different people come into your life to teach you different lessons, and it's just each level is so much more intense. It's like, wow,
and you
didn't see that lesson coming.
Yeah,
and like then you're kind of.
But then in hindsight,
you're
you feel
grateful.
like when you look back, you're like, yeah, I did kind of see it coming. Like you kind of knew,
right?
You know, like,
well, I mean, you're not totally inept to the fact that life lessons happen, and people are, you know, not all. People don't always have your best intentions at heart. Right. We know these things.
Yes.
But like when you're relationship building with people and then that reveals itself, you didn't see that coming.
It's like a punch in the face.
It's like an episode of Scooby-Doo where they pull the mask off the villain, right? And then you're like, holy shit. Right, but like we know this from, you know, we've seen it all before. But like when you're in the midst of experiencing that, you're a little bit blindsided.
And then you're in it, and then it's hard to get out of it.
Yeah.
You're like, how do I get out of this?
Yes.
Because now I'm so in it, and it's like, how do I?
And you didn't even realize it was happening. And you know that you're attuned to that. And you know, like.
You know something feels wrong.
Yeah. And especially if you have friends, like if you have other friends and connections that are experiencing something like that, when you're out of it, you can look at that relationship and you can give the advice and be like, wow, this is how I see it.
Yep.
But when you're in it, it's hard to step out.
It is hard to step out, even though you know it's hard to step out, and it takes some time. But sometimes that first hard one that's hard to step out of, I think it gets easier now. To say no to people.
It does. Setting boundaries.
Empowering
yourself.
Yeah, because I think meeting those people along your journey,
part of the process.
It hurt like hell. It hurts. And it still does when you look back on that time. When you look back, you evaluate it differently than when you were in it. But it still has a weird pain.
Well, I go through it every single year. Like, I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
So each year, like since I started my business, you know, back in 2016, just things changed. Like you're an artist creating your music and you're looking to develop, you know, your own brand with that. Yeah. And that means you have to bring people into your life that you trust, and you're trying to build something and create.
Yep.
And you want to bring people along with you.
That want to like do it with you too,
right?
You know,
and so, yes, I get it because that's all I wanted to do from the moment I started my business was like bring people in, you collaborate, and you want people to share your vision, and it's like giving birth. You know what I mean? I attribute it to that. Because then you have to nurture and grow it, right? As it's coming to fruition.
And it's scary sometimes too, when you share it with the wrong people, they can kind of take control of that, of what you want, and they take control, and then they can just steal it really.
Well, I experienced that time and time again as I started my business. You have your vision, and, you know, you write from a business perspective anyway, you're writing your you know, your vision out on paper, and you're sharing that with people. You're writing your policies, and you're doing all these things, and you're sharing as it grows, and you're putting your team together. And then people have their own ideas for you and what your vision looks like.
I feel like I was just doing that when you were talking about your thing. I'm like, you should. And I'm like, no, you already have your thing. Just do it. I'm not telling you.
It's just, that just happens, especially when you've worked hard to create it and you want to bring people along for the ride, but then that people want to get on board, but then they see
have their
your life
own-
differently for them.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, well, you're living your life and I'm living my life. We're trying to
there
collaborate on a project here.
Yes.
That means we go and grow together,
Yep.
not I get on board with your vision for me.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yes.
And so
I was doing that. I was
Yes.
guilty. And
well,
yeah.
each year for me, it's been that same process. So like it's still kind of that. It's just the hardest thing is accepting that that's the way that it is.
Yeah.
But once you kind of accept it, you're like, all right, you kind of just have to meet people where they're at.
Yep, and
It's
be
like,
okay
okay,
with it. And
I'm good with that. Like, and then you just kind of figure out that you vibe with your tribe, and that'll eventually happen when it's time.
Yep.
And sometimes it takes a little longer to get there than you expected.
yeah,
You know?
Yes.
But
yeah.
that's a rough one for me because for someone that wants that so badly and always has, it's like, when it doesn't work out kind of thing. But then
It's a bummer.
It is.
And then you see, things are still happening with that. And it's normal. It's like, yeah, they should be.
All you can do is just wish everybody well.
Wish everybody well.
But including yourself.
Yes.
And so that was what I was
Yes.
forgetting.
I do the same. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard when someone has hurt you along the way to wish them well. It's like, but then when you get to that point of just total, it's like,
Well, and then there is too, like I went through this when I started up my business. You'll hear things about yourself through other people that you were like, wow, that's interesting that was your perspective because in my version of the story, you're the villain, right? And so but other people villainize
it's seeing
you.
yourself from other people's shoes.
It totally was. So I went through a whole like rebirth thing like during that process where I was like, I started writing some stuff down on paper, like who I thought.
And it's easy.
I told
also,
myself
like
I was
you can,
like,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I had told myself I was like, well, everybody's the villain in someone's story, including me.
Yeah.
And so I started looking
Yeah,
at that once I
wow.
started hearing certain things about myself, and I got out a piece of paper and I started writing out, okay, here's who I feel like was the villain in my story, like at that time. And then so it was like a 2-part deal. And so
it's so.
and then I put down on the other side who I was the villain to.
Yes.
Like, and so, and it was funny because each name mirrored on both sides. And I was like, shit, that's some deep shit. And then, you know what I mean? So then I just started like kind of coming to terms with that and then asking forgiveness. Like I
Love that for
had
you.
to ask for forgiveness for people who viewed me as the villain in their story. That was not my intention. Sometimes that happens and we become the villain in someone's story. And without harmful intent on my end is what it was. And so and then I just started looking at the list of people that I thought, kind of did me wrong. And, I realized, well, they had the opposing view. You know what I mean? And so it was just about forgiveness, number one, just forgiving that person and just
Forgiving
realizing.
yourself.
And forgiving yourself. Exactly. It's a whole process. And then like, once you have that happen and then you continue to go through the process, it gets a little easier. It's not any more fun, by any
it's
means.
hard.
Yeah, it's hard.
I think it's important. It sounds like you've taken accountability on some things as well, I get that because it's hard to take accountability.
That was hard. Like this was back when I first started my business.
I was kind of for a little bit there, and I know I was. I mean, I'm not saying that you thought you were, but like for me, like looking back, I was like, oh, that was kind of shitty of me.
Well, I looked at it and I said, on that other end of things, if that's how you perceived it,
exactly,
then I can
see
I can
it.
own that. I could see that.
Fair
I could
enough.
see your perspective. Whether or not I fully agree, you know what I mean, are two different things. But I
Agreed.
respect your perspective on that.
All right,
and
I
can
like
look
that.
at it objectively. It was
like
hard
that.
for me to get there. Don't think it didn't take work because it was
get
a
it.
deeply emotional process and I was very upset through that whole time. But it was like once you really do the deep work, if you're willing to do it, I could come back together with all those people. And I have, but it was like, that took years of deep digging to do that. And it's
know
like,
that
but and it's always like an evolutionary process, like same shit, different year. It's like, but just different characters. And so it's all I can do is like try to, operate with
I think
integrity,
being aware of those
right?
people too.
Yeah, it's tough, especially when I think you want to see good in people, And there are people that are inherently good and have your best interest at heart, and you feel that. And then there's some people that just get get by your radar, and that happens. That's part of the process.
That's a hard one, I think, too. Like, I was working with some people years ago, and it was hard for me to, like, once I left, like, I still left my door open, like, oh, I'd still love to do things, if interested. And, there's probably a weird push and pull thing just because when you leave something, it's hard to, like, fully let go of it.
Yeah.
But then you need to, but yeah, it feels like I'm at a point where I could easily work again to an extent.
Yeah.
Like, be involved, whatever, if they're involved.
Some relationships I paid attention to, whether it be business, friendship, personal, whatever you want to say, because I kind of look at relationships all as an amalgamation.
Yeah.
I just do, because I just try to operate as one,
Yeah.
floating orb, I guess.
Yeah, no,
but
no.
like I think that some people are best suited to operate at kind of arm's length. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so, like, love you, but from far away.
Yeah.
And so
appreciate what you're doing, but from far away.
Exactly.
Because it's not for some reason you just.
Some people aren't meant to come together.
Yeah.
And then some people can still provide connections for each other or operate within the same network, because I have that too. Like, I work in a very professional network, and sometimes it's hard to always have to be the one to take the high road when I want a low road.
Hard,
you know what I
right?
mean? I'm like, why
Yes.
am I always taking the high road?
Yeah.
And then it's like, when you want a low road, it's like the fingers are pointing at you. But not you. You know what I mean? Not on the
Yes.
other end. And it's
I
like, because you're
100%.
always on the low road, but
Yep.
when you're one to take the high road, I think that there's
It's
just balance
hard.
in that.
Yep.
Right. It's just operating with integrity, I think, and kind of doing what you feel is right, from your heart. And you can't go wrong with that. And not everyone's going to perceive your actions as the right move for them.
Yes.
But that doesn't matter, because you're doing what's best for you, as is
Exactly.
everybody else.
Yep.
That's pointing the
Yep.
finger at
Like
you.
I say, you're the star of your own show.
Exactly. You write your
In
own
the
story.
end, you're writing your own story. Yeah.
Exactly. It all sounds so cliche,
It
but
does.
it's the way that it is.
It is, and that's what my friend Emily and I always talk about this. Like, just do you. She's a musician, and
Yeah.
it's like we talk about just do you. If you're you, then
Can't go wrong.
You can't
Right.
go wrong. You just
Exactly.
have to be true.
You cannot please everybody. Not
Nope.
everybody accepts you as you are.
That's a
how
hard
you
thing
operate.
to overcome. As when you overcome that,
Yeah.
that's the best feeling. I think, like, you can't please everybody,
just
and not everyone's gonna like you, and who gives a shit?
Did you notice too, like, as you go on in life and gain more experience, like we
Yeah.
said, did you notice that kind of everyone has their own perception? So like that
Yes.
stuff, especially the
Of anything you go
social media platform
Yeah.
right now too is so interesting, because
It's
when,
so
the way that you
interesting.
write something, everyone perceives that differently.
Oh, yeah.
So that's where that whole communication comprehension thing comes into play for me,
Mm-hmm.
because I was like, wow, you could communicate, you think so clearly and effectively, but not everyone comprehended that the same
Yes.
way. It's like, how did you gather this
Yes.
from that?
That's why even being like a songwriter,
Yeah.
like, I don't care clearly enough to worry about the haters.
Right.
But I'm like, I'm just going to write my thing, and
Yeah.
you can take it how you want.
You just accepted that. And I had
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
to accept that too, because as I was kind of like developing a social media following with starting my business and kind of where I was going with that, I also realized, like, I'm a sarcastic person. I know you are
same.
too.
Yeah,
right?
I write sarcastically
Exactly.
in my songs. Like, I can be a little bitch, but it's not. It's
You're
just me
talking,
being
it's almost like you
honest.
talk the opposite of what the thing is,
Yes,
right? And so
yes.
I would do that on social media and it would just fall flat. Like,
Uh-huh.
I'm like, I would have to write, I don't even do it anymore because it's just not worth my time. But, and you can just get flagged for anything on social
Right.
media
And
these days.
people love to flag other people.
Right.
My
I just got flagged twice.
I've gotten flagged before. Oh, I just spit. I'm so sorry.
No,
It
I
just
liked
flew.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, it just flew in your way. I don't know if it hit you. But yeah, I've gotten flagged. It's like a fuck you.
Yeah,
Like,
I didn't even know.
Mind your
I couldn't
own
I
business.
couldn't even understand twice. I got
Yeah.
flagged this week for 2 different things that didn't compute for me.
Mm-hmm.
One, I was just bringing cancer awareness, and I got flagged for that one.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what the thing was. And then another one was it was a video of myself. but I was flagged for unoriginal content. It was me. It was a video of myself.
See, I
thought that was funny. So it's just different. Everybody perceives it differently. But when I would post a couple years back, I would always post if I was posting something with sarcasm, like it was like clear sarcasm. I would have to write a disclaimer. Like, here's a disclaimer. Like, I'm obviously just kidding. And then here's the comment.
You have to do that. That's
but I started realizing too that you're not only friends in a network on social media with friends. So like you have Facebook friends or Instagram friends or followers or whatever you want to call it. But you don't necessarily know everybody. People just become connected to you and then want to get to know you via social media. It's a different platform.
And it's a hard platform.
It's a lot to take in, and then you have to dissect it all, like to understand, okay, wow, okay, so these people are wanting to get to know me through here, and they don't know my personality, but here I am judging them for not understanding my personality. So there's all that to dissect.
See, that's the seeing it from the other shoes. And I think it's funny you bring up the social media and like you put things out there to be you. And I think that's another thing people probably get in their head so much about. Like, have you ever come across someone's social media page where it feels like they're trying too hard to like be a certain way?
Sure.
And that's what it did I just derail it a little bit?
No.
But it just kind of comes back to just
authenticity, right? Being yourself. Like, I think there's people, the image, right?
Yeah. I think with writing music, it's the same. I look at it as the same as social media. I'm like, you know what? If I'm on my porch, I play on my porch a lot. You know, I'll go outside and just play on my porch, and it's sweet. And I love to just be like, hey, I'm going to just record. I don't care if it's a nice microphone or not. I'm going to record it. And
you're so easy and flexible like that. I love that about you. I was watching a video of you just set your phone up and like you were just sitting on the side of your house, your barn or whatever. Yeah. It was just a close up of you and you were just doing acoustic and doing your thing. And like, who cares if it looks, you always sound good. So I think that you have a leg up in the way that it doesn't matter.
I mean, it's not the best. It's definitely not, it's through my phone.
Equipment wise, no, it's not the best, but you always sound good whether it's the equipment or good. So you have that. You know what I mean? I like that.
I used to worry. I used to be like, oh my God, I got to get a little more presentable. Let me set up my mic. Oh, I don't fucking care anymore.
If you don't think too deeply about it.
You know what? Right. I'm really just doing it about the music.
Yeah.
It's funny. I've talked to Joel about this. It's a weird industry because ideally I don't give a fuck what people think anymore.
Right.
I used to, of course, but you grow out of it. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. And I'm just writing really for me in a sense. To share. I want to help people in a way where it's like, you're not alone. Like,
it's the same premise with this podcast.
Yes,
this is
you're not alone.
I'm not trying to offer anybody any unsolicited advice on their life. I just want to talk from my experiences and what I've experienced, like what we're doing right now.
To let people feel less alone, because we've talked about being in that dark place. And you feel so alone. I had a friend that, this is a nice story actually, because this made me feel really good. She's a friend, we grew up together, and my first EP I put out, I'm not totally into anymore. But what was cool, she went through a dark time, and she came to me, and she goes, when I was going through all my stuff, I was listening to your song Alone a lot, and it helped. And I was like,
she unearthed that treasure.
Wow. It was like cool. It was a few months ago, and I go, that's all I want.
Yeah.
That's all. One person. And if it's one person, then it could be more. And
again, back to the cliches, because that's what I always come up with is I have this friend, Deirdre, we always talk about cliches because we're both into that. It's like every time we have a conversation, it's like that really truly is where you operate from when it's like if it does help one person. That's why it's like not offering unsolicited advice, judgment, or pointing fingers or any of that stuff. It's just talking about your experiences that someone might be able to relate to.
Yeah.
And not everyone does, because not everyone perceives you the same way you perceive yourself.
Exactly.
It's like, but if you connect with that one person that got that song that really resonated with them about feeling alone through your experience, you connected.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's amazing.
Did
you re-listen to your song after she said that? Because you said you kind of weren't into it anymore.
I didn't. I once actually Hank and Gus will randomly put on my songs from Spotify, and I'm like, stop. But when they do, I'm like, okay, it's not as bad as I've made it up in my head.
No, well, nothing ever is.
Yeah.
It was just like with the podcast stuff. Like that's, you get up on stage and it's so effortless, when you do it, because that's what you were born to do. That's your gift.
Yeah.
And so like for me, mine was always, I'm a mentor, and I started my business working with people, families of all different types of backgrounds, and connecting with people and making connections for people. But I've never done it on camera. And so like, that's not my unique gift, is to go display my gifts and talents on a camera, but I'm getting used to learning that process and just sharing and wanting to connect and, like I said, offer, unique experiences with someone that might connect,
I get that.
But like, I can appreciate like you getting up on stage or putting your music out there on Spotify and like exposing your soul like that. That's it's so deep, and that takes balls.
It does. I've got big balls.
You do.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that about you.
But I just try to be, like I said, I'm just doing it because I love it so much. And if a song were to take off, that's awesome. And of course, you always have that little, I'm sure you do with your podcast, like maybe you'll just make that right, because I'm doing a lot, because I am a stay-at-home mom, I do a lot through social media thing, and that's where social media is such a gift. Like I can hate it all I want. Like there's
it can be a blessing and a curse.
Yes, there's a lot of things I come across social media. I'm like, just shut the fuck up.
But the beautiful thing about it is now, once we realize that like you can like not follow certain things, you control your feed. I was like, I started doing that and disconnecting. It was just like for me, disconnecting from TV. I haven't watched TV since 2016.
Oh, I love that.
So I mean,
do you watch movies?
YouTube.
Do you watch movies?
I do.
Okay, yeah, that's how I am.
You're selecting that, but like I haven't seen mainstream TV or cable in years.
Well, when I lived at my parents for a bit, they were all about.
Well, I was just gonna say, unless I go visit my folks in Florida, it's on the fucking TV. It's the news, right? News. And they want to know, and so like, and then also when I speak with my folks over the phone, I'll get the updates, but then I just kind of tune it out. I can only take in so much, and it's like if you're, especially like if you're getting ready to go to bed, those thoughts are just the last thing that were imprinted in your mind. I'm like, I don't need to know all that.
Thank you.
Right.
Agreed.
But back to your music, being on Spotify, where else is your music?
Instagram. I basically, I've been posting all my I'll do, like you said, like that video you saw of me I just had written that and I was so excited.
You share it to like Reels.
Yeah.
That's big right now.
Yeah,
Reels
I just
are big.
do Reels
share to your story.
Put it on. I mean, I do TikTok, but I'm not active on it. I'll just post and just leave it alone.
I'm just learning about it.
Yeah, there's sometimes I'll put a post and I forget about it, and then I'll open it up and I'm like, oh, there's some action that happened there, which is cool. I like that, and I'd like to get to that point fully with Instagram. Just make a post and just let it be, which I've gotten better, but trying to do less scrolling and more posting. Just for me.
Exactly. No, that's cool. So definitely Spotify, folks can find you on.
Sure. Yep. Yep.
And any of the other streaming platforms?
Music.
Okay. Facebook?
Other streaming platforms. Yeah, it's like on all of them.
All of the platforms.
Yeah,
okay.
pretty.
We'll put them up at the end of the show.
Yeah. So pretty much all those, like Amazon, Apple.
Got it.
Yeah, so like all the big ones that people have.
Cool. Yeah. So you're on all of those. Have you ever put out any, I got to ask because I'm just such a fan of vinyl. Have you ever released any of your music on a vinyl
I
album?
would love to. It's expensive to get those made. And one day, if good things keep happening along my journey, I would love to get some vinyls out there, but I feel like it's expensive to get them.
No pressure. I was just curious, because I would buy one.
But I'm just telling you, that's good to know.
Yeah.
It's expensive to make them, so I want make sure people buy them.
Yeah, of course.
What I mean? So,
and you probably have to release a certain number, right?
Yeah.
You probably have to like release that in bulk.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'd like to have I have this whole Greek mythology stuff. I wrote it like 2-3 in the course of like probably from 2020 on, maybe 2021 on. And I have a bunch of them, and the whole thing's a story. Like I'm going to release it as kind of like a chapter almost book.
Cool.
But anyway, I'd love to get that whole thing on vinyl. But that I'm kind of working on that on the background so I'm going to be pumping out singles, which is I'm working on the Knicker song, and I have a song called Denim Shirt I'm working on right now as well to get out as singles. And in the background of that, I'm going to be working on the Greek mythology.
Cool.
Like EP.
Yeah.
So it's all kind of going to be happening in the next couple of years. I'll have a lot of new music
in the vault.
Yeah.
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 I like that.
So
eventually you'll have a catalog.
Exactly.
With
and that's, I think, why I've like kind of dumbed down on playing shows. Like I was gigging and gigging and gigging, and that was like, I hated leaving my
It's got to
family.
be exhausting.
Well, it's just background music. You know, the gigs and shows are so different. Like
Right.
the gigs, it's like you go to a bar, you play for 3-4 hours, and it's great practice. You know, you're in, but no, like it's the worst when someone would come up, like the manager or something. Could you turn that down? You're just background music. I'm like, well,
okay,
just
yeah.
get
I
the radio
that.
going.
Yeah.
Len, you know what I mean?
Sure, I
but
do.
it's fine. It is what it is. That's all part of gigging, and that's all part of the
Yes.
experience. And you know, after doing it for a few years, I was telling Joel, I was like, I just don't, and I never want to leave you guys,
Right.
you know, because when you go through stuff, coming out, it's like you're mending and you're working, and
Sure.
I just have this new appreciation for my family in such a healthy way. And
like you said, like you pointed out too, it's a different time right now. Like with social media, streaming it can be a blessing and a curse at the same time. But focusing on the blessings is that you can stream anywhere. You can do it in your car at this point.
That's why I try when I do my posts.
Yeah.
I try to make it as real and authentic as possible. Like I'm playing live somewhere. Like,
Right.
hey, I want you to feel like you're hanging out on my front porch with
Exactly.
me. Like, come listen to my song.
What about YouTube? Are you on YouTube?
I'm the worst at YouTube. See, I'm the worst at YouTube. I am.
I think your greatness, and I think that you could be good.
Thanks.
On
You're
YouTube.
right. I
Yes.
could be good on YouTube. I just don't. So you know what? If it's not that hard, I just forget. You know what it is? It's not the worst. I just forget about it.
Yeah.
It's like there's so many platforms.
There's so many. I don't even know.
And YouTube is a good one because people find new music on there all the time. So
Funny because
I
I
should just
watch
post the video on
YouTube
there.
all the time. I had watched it all the time, and now that I've started the podcast, I've had to tap into having a YouTube channel. And I'm like, why is it so difficult in my head to do this? Because I'm on it all the time.
It's not that
I don't
hard.
watch
You just
TV.
make a damn post.
Yeah,
You just
exactly.
but you edit and stuff, right? Like you're editing your stuff. That's an even bigger task.
Oh,
bigger
for the
job.
podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I have my handy Hannah over here.
There she is. Handy Hannah.
Handy Hannah. Now, there's a song out of that name, I
Yeah,
feel
Handy
like.
Hannah.
Next time I see Jackie, she's going to have a song
Well, you
called
gave me,
Handy Hannah.
you really helped influence my last song. When I wrote you something in a text and you just put redemption, I swear to God, I mean, I'd already been simmering something.
Yeah.
But I went out and I was like, holy redemption. That's such a good,
Well, back to
this
our...
is my redemption.
Yeah, absolutely. Because back to our little chat about, kind of when I was starting up my business, and and you're putting that, you're kind of weighing out who you're the villain in the story, and vice versa. It's like, wow, okay, there's some redemption in that as you kind of grow and dig and do the deep work, and then you come out and it's like, wow, there's a little bit of redemption involved in that. Not a little bit, a lot.
A lot.
you know?
And it feels really good. And it's okay to be okay with that, I think,
Yeah,
just
totally.
feeling that. And that's,
kind
And
of takes you to the next level, and it's like, oh, shit. Then you realize you're like, damn, Jackie's a bad motherfucker.
so are you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that.
You know, like I said, I like meeting people and talking to people because, honest to God, I feel like people are like, oh, I couldn't write a song. I'm like, to tell you how many people I meet along my way that have written my songs basically for me, like that Redemption song, so much of it was you. And, I take elements of everybody who I've been talking to in that time where I'm like, wow, they need... all these people need a redemption.
All right,
song.
you're giving me goosebumps now.
Yeah.
I can feel them.
Oh, that makes
That's
me feel good.
I
But-
appreciate you telling me that. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't share with people where their inspiration comes from,
people
or
are my
who inspires them.
people. Like the people who inspire me
Yeah.
inspire my songs.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it was about 2 years ago, you wrote me a handwritten thank you note.
Yeah.
You had a show and I sponsored it,
Mm-hmm.
and do you remember that we came here? We did a photo for that.
Yeah.
I can't remember all the details on
Yeah.
that, but that thank you note is on my refrigerator to this day.
It is?
Yeah, I can take you over there right now and show it to
that
you.
makes me feel
It
good.
is, and I thought that was amazing that that you actually wrote a handwritten thank you because I was raised to do that stuff.
Yeah.
And so I've always appreciated the art of a handwritten thank you, and it's up on my refrigerator.
to
Yep,
hear.
I see it every time I'm over at the Clarkston house. Yes.
Well, I honestly appreciate people who are just
I
good
feel that about you
inspiration for
too,
me.
and I
Yeah.
like that you shared that. And I'm not someone that I would explode if I didn't tell people how I felt about them.
Yes.
Like I do it, and it's hard.
Yes.
Like especially when between guys, like in guy
Yes.
friends, they don't tell each other shit.
No.
It's like some do,
Yeah.
some do, and some that are very comfortable with themselves. I find like my mostly like my alpha friends are more so comfortable with themselves that like they tell you.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But
Yep.
like when you get around like insecure folks that are like living in competition and all
Yes.
those types of things, they're not telling you, you know, that you've inspired them.
No,
And
it's like
I
the
think
music. It's the same with the music realm. Like, do you ever feel like people are telling you stuff just to
blow
say-
smoke. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
But it's like that with like there's some people I meet. It's so it shouldn't be competitive.
Right. I
in the music
understand
industry.
competition. There's healthy competition.
Well,
I do
podcast
understand.
there's competition.
Sure.
You know.
It's everywhere you go. It's how you
But-
look at it, but I don't think
Yeah.
you have competition. And people have asked me that about my business.
Mm-hmm.
You know, do you find that, they'll say, wow, you're in a really competitive business. How do you navigate through that? And I say, well, I'm not competing because,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't mean this in like a cocky way, but well, I can't compete with your gifts, right? And you can't compete with mine because
Exactly.
you don't have mine and I don't have
Yes.
yours. So the competition's out the mix, right? It doesn't compute for me. So I'm like, well,
It's
there
like
is no
comparison is the
competition.
thief of joy.
It
So
is.
competition, in my idea, you're comparing yourself to that person. You're
Totally.
feeling, it's like a weird jealousy, competitiveness where it's so.
It doesn't need
not-
to exist. And
doesn't
so
need to
like that's
exist.
where like, and some people just want to compete.
Yep.
So like there's that. So
Yep.
like usually if I get in that energy, I just go the other way. I kind of pull back and like phase that person out or phase myself out like of that situation or that relationship
know,
only
it's
because
not healthy.
I'm not doing it. And so like, and I probably admire you more than you admire yourself,
Yep.
like that person. And so it's never going to work in a friendship, you know what
Right.
I mean, or any kind of business relationship or whatever the relationship might be if you're living in comparison and competition. Because number one, like it's
a
kind of
thief of
cheesy,
joy.
right? It's kind of cheesy, but like I want you to win, but I want me to win too. But like we can collaborate and like I can root for you, you can root for me,
Yep.
kind of deal, and like let's just go.
Yep, that's how
know?
a lot of my music industry friends are now. Like the ones that I felt, oh, that didn't feel right. Feels like you're just not.
You can feel it internally.
Genuine.
I do. I
Yes.
pick right up on that.
I've
shit.
totally removed myself.
The
From
worst part is I think we're a lot alike in this respect is that you can turn your head for as long as you possibly can, even though you know in your heart and soul it is what it is. And you can try to forge through,
Yes.
but
I tried.
I've
there's
done it too,
times I've
and-
tried, and I've tried to talk about it with the individual, and
Yeah.
I've tried to like make them see it from my side the way I see it from their side
Right.
and understand it. But it's like if you can't take accountability and try and see it from all ends, and you're still going to be.
Yeah, especially if you've ever experienced working or just being in a relationship in any capacity with a narcissist. We all have
Yes.
like egos and narcissistic tendencies and all
course.
those things, but it's all about management of that
Yes.
and like recognition of
Yep.
it. But if you're dealing with someone on a narcissistic level that can't see that, because they say, a narcissist will never see that they're a narcissist.
They will, they don't.
And so then you have that to deal with. And then it's just about kind of meeting people where they're at again and kind of like,
Yes,
okay, like
yes.
this is
like being
like,
okay with that's how the way they feel.
that's how you are and that's how you operate. And so
Yep.
those are
That's
the
the
types
only
of people that you
closure
have
you're going to receive.
Yeah, of course.
You know.
And so we're here, right? We're
Mm-hmm.
at arm's length. That's how it's about yourself and managing who you allow into your inner circle,
Yep.
so to speak, right?
Yep. And there's sometimes like when I think of a narcissist I've dealt with, like I didn't know about narcissism until, you deal with them.
Right.
Then you think, dude, sometimes I look back on one relationship I had and I was thinking like maybe I was also like I started picking up those narcissistic traits.
I've said that to myself. Am I the narcissist?
Yes, I remember in therapy. I was in therapy and I was like, I said to my therapist, I go, I keep thinking now, because you flashback, right? Once you remove yourself, you do a lot of flashbacking and digging and like, what was that? Because it was so toxic.
Yes.
And I just go to my therapist. I'm like, am I the narcissist?
Right.
I feel like maybe I'm the narcissist. She goes, if you were the narcissist, you wouldn't be here. Like, okay, fair enough. But I definitely probably picked up a lot of traits, especially like moving forward with other relationships.
Pick up on energy.
Yes.
Something
and I was
very
kind of
important.
mirroring that person.
That happens.
To other people. I was turning into that person to other people.
You're on fire right now. That is
Yes.
good because that brings me back to like one of my favorite sayings is you are the amalgamation or the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yes.
And like
And
that, there is something to be said for that because your body, your personality picks up on those other personalities that you're with. So if you're not surrounding yourself with healthy, good company, then you're going to reflect that. You're going to mirror it.
Yep.
And then if you're not self-aware enough to pick up on that's what's happening, then you're fucked. You know what I mean? But like for me, I was like, thank God. And for you too.
Yeah.
Like
when you start being self-aware though and taking accountability, that's when at least for me, I start kind of going to that darker place.
Yes.
Because it's scary.
Right.
And it's hard, but it's like, wow, I did all this. Wow, I was this kind. And then you start seeing the person you became for a little bit. And for me, it was.
And again, it all comes back to your personal accountability because you let that person into your circle and you mirrored that person. You allowed yourself to be manipulated into that situation.
Yep.
For me, I'm speaking for me, not you.
No, same though. It's the same. I feel the same way.
I was like, oh, that was on me. I allowed that person.
Yeah, because that's
because
why you
on
can't
some
blame.
level you knew, right?
And you can't blame that
Right.
person because that's who they are.
They
And
are.
you allowed it. You allowed that to happen. And so being okay with that, like we come back to every time, being okay with that and moving forward from it and just saying that's who they are. And, and they're not, you wish that they would have probably learned what you learned, but you can just, they did not.
And here's something I tell myself too is, to your point exactly right now is people, you hope anyway, just get there when they get there.
Yes.
So some people are just meant to experience a little more hardships and life lessons and just kind of maybe burning bridges with people even. It's a hard road when you're not self-aware enough to like realize when you have good people in your life. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's you learn lessons the hard way and that's a rough road.
It is a rough road.
It's
a really rough road.
Yep. Man, that was a good one.
Yeah, it was.
We were on one right there.
Bam.
You got to come back for another episode, I'm
I'd love
thinking.
to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you're welcome here anytime, you know that. We got to get you in here to do a live performance.
Yes, I'd love to do a live performance, especially that. I think the one that you helped inspire.
Oh, that would be amazing. What was the last time you and I got together, you sang 2 songs for me. Amore. Now that's a jam. That was a good one.
That's kind of a redemption song as well.
I dig that one.
Because that's basically saying, everyone's different. I open it up with same flower, different vase because everyone's, you're the same flower. You can change your vase, but you're still the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
Same flower.
Yeah. You're deep on another level. I dig it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks. I try to be creative when I write. I really do. Because I love writing.
Yeah. You're good. I hope that you find your collaborative team. I like I said.
I think I'm building up to a good one.
I love
so
that.
It's nice. It's been a great turn.
Well, I'm excited to introduce you to some of my friends in the music industry because I'm not a musician, I've always been connected to music since I was a little kid. Always been a passion of mine and always been connected to music. But like I said, you never want to hear me sing or see me dance, any of that stuff, or play any instruments. Maybe the glockenspiel. No, I'm just kidding. But I have some great friends that I'd love to introduce you to, and vice versa. I'd love to introduce them to you, and that's always a joy bringing people together that can collaborate and make good things happen.
Yes, and work together.
Yeah,
and not
absolutely.
Competing, but working together.
Yeah, building a network, and I think that's pretty cool. I just had a great musician. in for an interview over the weekend. John Paul Wallace, he's a great Detroit musician. You guys actually live pretty central to each other.
We do?
We all three do, actually.
Really?
That's so funny, yeah. But I'll have to set up a meeting, get you guys connected.
Because I've done that's where I'm kind of at on my journey. Like, I think after going through what I went through and coming out, like, I love being home. I've always, that was another thing I battled with, like, when I was more in the scene of, like, gigging and working, like, in a tighter knit community.
Yeah.
It felt like I was I've really come to find, and I am definitely an introvert, and it's hard for me to make relationships that aren't meaningful.
Oh, it's the pits when you're trying to. I know exactly what you mean. I kind of consider myself an introverted extrovert.
Yeah, same.
So,
same. I can be extroverted with someone like you. Like, I can be myself around.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'll be me.
Yeah, yeah.
But there are some. For the most part, I am myself always. But
when you feel like you can't be, that makes you dial in your personality and you feel like you're going to explode because you don't feel comfortable.
Yes, and I was making so many fake relationships.
Yeah,
like,
it's
I'm like,
really
hard.
I'm
not built.
The
I'm not going to
networking
build.
scene.
Yes, because I wasn't feeling genuine with what they were doing, or
Right.
I'm like, I don't really like what you're doing, and I don't really care about what you're doing. Like, why am I?
That's how I get in those networks all the time, and I'm like, I can't. I don't have like the energy to do it.
Why am I even dabbling? In it? I don't even care.
I just think about those scenarios, and I need a nap. I'm
Yes.
like, oh, I need a nap. I
It's
fucking can't even think
horrible.
about going and doing that. Yeah.
So now there is a power in saying no, and it can be addicting.
Sure.
And I love saying no.
Oh
now.
my God, I brought the wrong mug then today because I have a mug. I was trying to pick mugs
Just
out.
say no or something?
It said nope.
Nope. Yes.
Because to your point exactly, I just said that. That was my whole year-long thing was nope.
Nope.
No, thank you. Don't invite me.
Right. Like,
Thanks
I don't
for
want.
not including me.
Yes, thank you. I don't think that wedding. No, I'm fine that you didn't invite me. Please don't invite me to a wedding that I barely know you. Because,
Don't forget to take me off the list.
Right. Take me off, please. So that's where I'm at. I have a very tight knit,
Right.
tight knit of people that I feel like I can talk to.
I'm getting better now about just like I said, you just kind of like it was so bad for so long where I was just kind of like not finding.
It was like a robot.
Well, I was just not finding my tribe, I guess, so to speak, or just like just kind of navigating through where I felt I can pretty much blend in with anyone, even though scenarios are okay.
Same.
Just as
But it's
long
draining
as
sometimes.
It's draining if you're kind of if you're okay with accepting everybody else with their app, but like they're not okay with that. You know what I mean? Because then it just becomes a gossip circle.
Oh, I hate gossip circles. It is the pettiest of petty shit. I hate it.
That's where I found myself in different networks like that. Just I work in the mental health field. You know what I mean? And it can be one of the most unhealthy environments working in the mental health field.
Then you start going down to that level, and I don't know. I've been there, and I'll be like, oh, I'll go with you there, and then afterwards, I never feel good.
Yeah, no, and it's sometimes you don't even realize you're caught up in that. You know, and you take a step back, and I'm like, man, I don't want to be that person, and I don't want to represent myself like that person, and then you just kind of kind of dial yourself back, and you know.
I think you need safe people that you can.
Yeah.
I don't want to say gossip, but there are safe people I think that you can talk to.
Sure.
You know, you want safe relationships where you're like,
everyone
I
needs
went through
to
this.
vent,
This person
and you
did this
can't
to
share
me.
a story without having had the experience.
It's just sharing it with the right people that aren't going to go tell their
Exactly.
aunt who tells their cousin who tells their sister.
I had to experience that where it was like I had, experience. It's like you think you're having a one-on-one conversation with somebody, and then but really it's not. Like the second they leave, it's like you just had that conversation with the 12 people they're going to sit down and have coffee with.
and,
It's
like, talk
that's
about
just
you.
part of human life,
yeah.
and that's another thing that you have to accept is that people do that.
People do
and
that.
It's just maybe you don't. You know what I mean? So like
and I'm doing
obviously
it, like,
we're
less
having a
and less and
podcast.
less and
so
less.
we're sharing everything on a podcast right now. It's like people get to eavesdrop in on our conversation.
Yeah, it's kind of
These
fun.
are not conversations that that I would want to sweep under the rug. I want people to experience this conversation. But like when you are sharing something maybe intimate, you know what I mean, with someone that you think you're confiding in, and it's not confidence. That's
sucks.
where it's like a little bit of a bummer. And so you have to be a little more selective. And again. again, there's people that want to know things about you, not because they care, but because they want to, exactly. And that's just, again, part of life too.
Yep.
Got to experience those people so
Be
you know.
okay with it.
So yeah, if you don't experience those types of relationships, then you can't know when you're in a good one. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Vibes tell everything.
I've had like friends date dudes, and it's like they would constantly be anxious about the relationship and have anxiety and talk about, some of the things they're afraid. They're like, oh, I'm afraid to text this. I don't. Should I text him? Should I not? I'm like, if this is causing you this much anxiety,
Then
there's
you're not in the
something
right
wrong.
thing. Yeah.
And it's nice now. I have
It
one
should flow.
Yes, and I have one friend who finally, she had been in prior just anxious relationships, and that's all she knew.
Yeah.
And then she's finally in this beautiful, nice relationship, and it's so nice because there's not been one time she's come to me with anxiety about it or anything. She is just who she is.
Wow.
And I'd always tell her, like, just find someone that just be you.
Yeah.
Because if they're not, you just got to be you.
Well, these days, it's so interesting that we're having this part of the conversation. I was just talking to somebody about this. I feel like these days it's like lightning in a bottle. Catching something like that has got to be like lightning in a bottle, like what you have with your husband Joel. Like my parents becoming, connected at the age of 16, staying together. They're 70 now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's
like
so sweet.
That's lightning in a bottle. And so, like for me, I'm a very independent person. So I was lucky enough to experience 2 long-term loves. And those connections are like having soulmates that are still good and lucky. But then as I started my business, I married my business and kind of like went into choosing myself, exploration on a deeper level. And because I think when you have a lifetime of healing to do, you have to take the time to be on your own to kind of go through that process. For me again, I'm just speaking for myself, to understand myself better, what I want, what I deserve, but also like I was starting from ground zero, setting up a new life for myself and how I saw that. And so if, that came my way, something like lightning in a bottle, cool. But if not, like I'm cool with that too, because I know I'm a self-sufficient person. And, but you know what I mean? Like I think the universal theme of life is centered around love and like kind of
it is love. Love
that.
is the best.
I think so too. Again, cliche and cheesy to say it, but like I think it's the truth.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
I think that's why I wrote amore. Like that's amore. Like people are gonna fuck you up in this world, and in the end, you just have to love them for who they are.
Que sera, sera.
And I think love isn't dropped enough. Like when in relationships, when someone just starts dating, it's like, oh, he said I love you, and it's like, why can't he just love you from the beginning? Why can't we just love? I know it sounds like so cliche and hippie-ish
like,
and whatever,
when
but like,
right?
You
it's
should
like,
just. I even love the people that hurt me.
Yeah.
Like, even I still love them, and I know there's a good. They're good people. They're just.
I feel the same way. Again, like doing the deep digging, and it's
the
like
best thing
I
you
think
can
about
do is
people
love them.
often, right, that have hurt me, and it's like, it's kind of a bummer when you do have to keep those arm's length
It's
relationships.
hard
I have to
sometimes.
train myself to do that because I'm like, I want
Because
to.
you just want to.
You want to bring everybody in
Yes,
and close,
you're
and you want
fixer.
everybody in the circle of trust, and then it's like, I wish they didn't have to go and fuck it up like that because they were fun.
Because I think about that too. Like I'm like, oh, it could have worked so differently. If
totally.
If it was just a little different. And you try and fix. Like at least for me, I tried to fix it a few times with an individual, and I was like, I tried, and
well, sometimes, like oftentimes in relationships, for me, anytime I use the word relationships, I think people think it's romantic, but
but it's not.
I'm
When I
referencing
say
any
it,
kind of
same,
relationship,
same.
right? And so I think that most people stay too long, right? And so like there were so many toxic relationships that it was like, I should have really reevaluated that and moved forward maybe 3 to 5 years sooner than I did.
Oh yeah.
But then like I say, you get there when you get there.
Yep.
So it's
because that's all you know.
the lesson wasn't done being learned.
Yep. Especially some like childhood friends too. It's like you come across like, ooh, they shouldn't probably treated me that way. That wasn't very nice, and you stay. because you've known them forever, and that's all
And
you know.
that's tough too with family, because you have family in your life that can sometimes be toxic. And it's like, well, how
my
do
brother,
you
the one
navigate that?
the one I don't talk, the one none of our family talks to is my brother, and it's like,
and that can be the hardest thing, is like coming to terms with someone in your family that is a toxic, energy in your life.
it is
And
hard
it's
when
like,
it's a family member
because you want to love them and you wish them
Yes.
well, but at the same time, you have to love yourself, and like what's best for you is probably not, being in that person's energy. So it's time to move forward, and you do.
And that's like my sons, Hank and Gus will ask me about their uncle sometimes. They're like, well, you don't see him. I'm like, well, and they know, they're aware. And said, you can love somebody. Like, I love him.
Yeah.
I don't like him.
Right. He's in your heart.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think love and like, that's a big,
There's a
one right
song
there.
out called Falling Out of Like, and it's so clever. And I've always said that. So when I heard it, it's one of those songs where I'm like, damn it, I wish I would have wrote that. Damn
Yeah.
But it's so good because they talk about like, I don't, what did they say? I'll always love you, but I don't like you anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
It talks
sometimes
about
you just organically
journey.
come to the end of the road with someone.
And it's so sad, but
And
it's so
sometimes
true.
you can have such admiration for somebody, and you respect them, you admire them, and then but it's often sometimes the idea of somebody that you had in your mind versus
100%.
who they were.
And then the mask comes off.
Sure.
Like, ooh, you're not who I thought you were.
And maybe they didn't necessarily want to be on that pedestal either.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't think they were like
worthy of it.
of that anyway. And then it's just kind of how, back to the point of everybody, we all perceive each other in a different way. We all have a different perception of each other, including ourselves.
Yep.
And then it's just kind of doing the work to see, like, who do you choose, yourself or the other person? It's always yourself is the answer.
Yeah, because
right?
if you're not healthy and
Exactly.
if you're not happy, and I know that especially from experience when I was in my dark place, like I wasn't attached to my kids. I couldn't even attach to myself to a dog or animals, and I love animals and I love kids, and I couldn't even, because I wasn't.
You're a spiritual soul, and when you lose touch with that, like that's got to be paralyzing.
Yeah, and I think I had to almost. I know this sounds. Well, I had to fall in love with myself.
I do
again.
get that.
Like I love who I am, and I love, and I'm not in an arrogant or cocky way. Like I love who I am.
Exactly. I think
And
it's
in
beautiful.
order for you have to love yourself to love others.
You do have to choose yourself. I
Like what
went
you-
through
yeah.
that very same experience, and it was like, well, how am I ever going to expect to, evolve in life if I don't do the deep work? You know what I mean? And that meant everything for me, including
feel a lot.
starting my business, because it all has to come from your soul. From my perspective, anyway, it did for me, for what I was trying to create in my business and the business that is evolving into 3 more businesses, but it all centers around from where I was operating in here while I was doing that deep work. And so I hope that translates. It will for some, and for some it won't, because like we've determined on the Mike and Jackie show here is that not everyone understands your soul, right?
No.
And so, but what's important is that you do.
Yep.
So that's good.
Yep. My cousin, a couple weeks ago, he just took his life, and he left a journal behind. And it was just unreal how much he didn't love himself.
Yeah.
And how much pain he held inside. And just, I think, it stinks because I think when you do get to that dark place, you can easily go in that direction. And stinks that he did, but he just didn't love himself, and I wished he would have chose love ahead of hating himself.
The worst part of experiencing something like that, because I've been there, I've been in that dark place, is no amount of love that someone can give you can make you.
No, you
love
feel like you're
yourself.
burden on it.
Right, exactly. You have to really do deep work to get there. It's not easy.
And
for some people, it comes easy or sooner, or they just have different life circumstances. Everyone's wired differently. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's really hard to understand that when you get around someone that you think is so amazing and so special, but they haven't been able to feel or experience their gifts like the people that they're impacting.
I know. And it was, he impacted a lot of people.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry to hear that for that loss.
yeah. He was young too. He was only 24.
Oh, wow. My brother passed away at 27. So,
Yeah.
that's
young.
so young, just a baby.
Yeah, it was just a baby. And he was like mine and Joel's first baby.
Yeah.
Like he always came in the summer and stayed with us in the summer. And he had an older brother, and there were 7 of them, but there was like a big gap. And then the 2 boys, but they were like our kids first. Like I was like, oh, they were like our first Hank and Gus, Eamon and Keelan.
Yeah.
It's cool.
That's nice.
But yeah, so he had a special bond. But
Well, good. At least you have the good memories too.
yeah, and that's
reflect.
what you got to reflect on, the good stuff.
I think about my brother often too. You know what I mean? Because that's a process. I never really got on board with that whole you need closure. Like that came out. It was like a trending topic, finding closure in anything. Like if you had a breakup or this, that, or the other. I think that it's not about finding closure. It's about experiencing the process because it's different for everybody. And like each year, you're not in complete control of a memory coming into your mind.
Right. It will just come.
Right. Have you ever just laid your head down on the pillow at night and then all of a sudden, we're going to think about this tonight?
Oh, it's time.
Interesting. Because I put that to bed 3 years ago. But now it's fucking on.
Yep. I think it's all closure is a funny thing because you may never ever have closure with that individual, but I think you have to have closure with yourself.
You have to find peace and acceptance of the situation and of acceptance of what it is. I think that I let go of the term closure a long time ago. When it didn't.
It's a good way to look
at
it.
Yeah,
I actually like that because I say closure a lot, but maybe it is more coming.
But what's for you is for you, right? I just like
but I kind of like coming to peace with it because it may never be closed in a sense because their memories will race back. But just being okay with it.
Yeah.
Being okay with being okay.
Yeah. Do you have any closing statements for us?
No.
Words of wisdom?
Words of wisdom. I guess just be you. I think that was the whole premise of this.
Yeah.
This podcast.
Well, I like it.
Staying true to you, being you, and not really caring what other people think because I'm sure there's people that get annoyed to with my that I put out, but I don't give a shit.
Yep.
So
I always say that when I put up some kind of an inspirational post on my social media. Oh, he's back on his bullshit again.
Yeah, woohoo!
Here
But you know what? They don't like it. They can
I laugh.
leave.
I laugh about it,
like,
so it's good.
Yep. Just laugh. The best thing, medicine is just laugh it off, I guess, and being
for sure.
okay.
Well, thank you so much for coming and
thank you for having
joining me in the studio today.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, guys. Thank you for watching. And if you like what you see, click like and subscribe.